Alright, AoC meeting number 30. I'll go ahead and get started. I saw a lot of complaints about how Makoa, Andro, and Sha Lin's balance was handled. I didn't talk about Vora. As many of you know, they already fixed most of Vora's problems. Only thing that's really left is her ult, and I already told you guys that they had plans for making it more confirmable in the future. But yeah, so for Makoa, his half-shell build was buffed, rather considerably too. Many players either find this build aggravating to play against, or boring to play. They could always pick another talent, but many players feel forced into it because it's the best option. My recommendation was to take power out of the amount of reset you get and move that power into other aspects of his kit. That way the builds won't be so aggravating for some, and Koa's other more fun playstyles can be more viable. What exactly can be buffed is definitely up for debate though. He's not the easiest character to figure out buffs for without making him meta again. And as you guys know, the devs don't want him to be top of the meta again anytime soon. The devs said they definitely want to keep an eye on him over the course of the Vora's Pact update. Unfortunately, by the time this meeting happened, balance for Vora's Pact was already locked in, so they couldn't mess with it any further. They will have updates coming out every month and a half in 2021 to balance more frequently. As far as the reason they buffed it, it's because they want off-tanks to have playstyles that give them the option to main tank. However, they do admit that doing this requires pretty heavy-handed buffs. Then for Andro, basically his nerf doesn't feel like enough. It's only really noticeable at max distance. We do have some big maps in the game, but for the most part they're all medium to small maps. So most of the time, you don't feel his nerf. Andro is a very pub stompy character. In a lot of public games, a solid Andro can stomp a team if he's not directly countered by something like a Vivian or a Sha Lin. One is Cursed Revolver, but they can't really nerf that anymore without possibly sending it back into being unviable. The other reason is how often Andro has his abilities up due to his several reset cards. These two together give him the tools to pub stomp very effectively. Solid Andros can often get very high kill games with very low deaths because he is both a very lethal character and a difficult character to punish. I'm not even that amazing of an Andro and I get a lot of games like that for those reasons. So I recommended taking a look at his reset cards. Power of the Abyss and Abyssal Touch are fine, Seething Hatred and Watchful are more of the standout ones. Up to 2.5 seconds off reversal per bullet is rather high. And when it comes to Watchful, Andro is very lethal, so he'll get those limbs rather easily. Another possible option I put out there was making his nether steps get cancelled by CC again. For example, if he nether steps once and gets stunned or crippled, it would take away his other two. A while ago they messed with how his nether step works, and he got that buff as an unintended side effect. The devs said that he's another character they're going to keep an eye on this update. They're going to look into those recommendations, especially the CC one, so we'll see where that goes. Next is Sha Lin. Many players were upset that he didn't get a nerf to Sand Trap. In a past meeting, Z1 recommended making it so the cripple only applies on direct hits. I brought that back up and seconded it. Another option was to reduce the length of the cripple itself, but personally I think the direct hit one is the better of the two. Again, the devs want to keep an eye on him this update as well. They're taking the ideas into consideration. Next topic is from Yago about balance for Grohk and Pip. Many players don't feel like Grohk is a very good support, so Yago recommended messing with the Spirit's Domain talent. And basically what he proposed was making it so his bounces heal allies instead of using the staff. That way you can heal while not being so reliant on line of sight, and you can of course use your weapon for putting out damage. The devs do think the idea is very interesting. If they were to do it, it wouldn't be soon though. They definitely want to keep the idea in mind without a doubt, however. As for Pip, he did get buffs, but nothing to really help out Mega Potion. So Yago recommended making it so instead of having all of Mega Potion's healing come in a burst, it comes in a heal over time, so it can outlast Cauterize. The devs said that they think it's an interesting way to counter Cauterize, but a big part of Pip's identity is being a burst healer. They think it's important for characters to have their identities, and they don't want to make every healer heal in the same way. They want to see how his buffs play out for now, and they may rework a talent in the future. Next up is Libra with feedback about Vora and Imani. Libra brought up how Vora's ultimate is not very confirmable. You guys already heard the devs were working on this before, but now you have some info on exactly what they're doing. They're looking into making it so you don't have to have your crosshair on the target for the ult to go off. Instead, it'll be more like a cone hitbox, so if the target is anywhere in the cone, you can connect with the ult. That would definitely make it a lot easier to confirm. Libra also asked for a quicker lockout on obliteration and maybe reducing its cooldown from 12 to 10 seconds. The devs said they're open to explore different options, but they're not likely to mess with the cooldown on the ability anytime soon. With the lockout, this would take animation work, so they'd need that to be done before they can test it out. For Imani, Libra said that her ice stance feels too powerful now and very spammy, so Libra recommended giving it damage falloff. The devs said they're definitely going to keep an eye on Imani this update, since Imani did get very sizable adjustments. Another thing Libra brought up was controller support for spectators. The devs do want to put this on their quality of life backlog, but it's nothing they can work on immediately. Next up is Gabinet's topic about balance for Grover, Nando, and Barrack, as well as being able to hide your character level. He said that Grover could use a radius indicator on his heal that he can see, and that Nando could use one in his ultimate that everyone can see. The devs are fans of these ideas. The only problem would be how much visual clutter this could eventually add. If they continuously add indicators like this as players request them, we could get to the point where there's 4 or 5 rings on the ground when all of these characters are in a game together. Again, it's not that they don't want to do it, but they do have to be careful about how this feels, so they're going to be testing it out. For Barrack, Gabinet recommended raising his health from 3,400 to 3,800. The devs do want to keep an eye on Barrack. They do want to see him be a bit more prominent. The health idea is definitely up for consideration, but they want to see how the tank class lines up in the Vora's Pact update with the recent tank balance. Then they'll look at what they can do. The devs would also like to put the character level thing on their quality of life list as well. There was also another thing about voice not working in casuals unless you're in a party, and even then you can't talk to people outside your party. It's like this in all systems, and it is intended according to the devs. Next up is Galenzier's topic about Mixer and ranked matchmaking. The devs do want to get viewer points back into the game in update 1 or 2 of next year. We used to have them for Mixer, and when they get re-added, they'll be for Twitch. That's pretty exciting. As for ranked, it's basically the same response as before. The devs said it's a finicky subject. A lot goes into it: platform, time, population. If you queue at odd times, you'll get uneven games. They have seen that Smite went to timer-based queues, and apparently players enjoy that more and feel like they're getting fairer games, so that could be an option for Paladins, but however, in reality, they're getting less even games. The devs do think that it makes it easier for high-end players to coordinate their queues and get better games that way. Apparently they do that in Smite. Personally, I have noticed that high-end players do tend to stream snipe other high-end players when they stream, since it does help them get better games. So it's a similar thing there. Then there's Couch's topic about balance for Ashe and Zinn. He couldn't make it to the meeting, but his balance document did. He feels that Ashe is very powerful and could use some nerfs, like reducing her ult duration from 8 to 7 seconds, as well as the damage of it from 600 to 400. Or make her ultimate damage scale with the distance you leap with the ult. For Zinn, he feels that his Viciousness card is very powerful. It puts your counter down to a 3-second cooldown when you land it. If you're fighting high fire rate characters, you put up the counter and they're going to hit it. A lot of people say just don't attack it, but that doesn't apply there. You don't have time to react if you're a full auto character. So he recommended reducing the scaling. Now I won't lie, I've had plenty of times where I've gotten 2 to 3 resets in a single 1v1 with this card. It is pretty crazy. As far as what the devs think, complaints about Ashe are pretty new to them. They said they could keep an eye on her. When it comes to Zinn, they know he's one of the premier flanks at the moment, so they're gonna keep an even closer eye on him. As for Z1, he didn't have a topic, but he was present in the meeting. Here's some bonus side stuff real quick. Libra brought up the idea of giving every character a def card as a mastery reward. The devs do like the idea, they think it's pretty cool, and they will be discussing it, but they make no promises on it happening. Couch also brought up the drop hack problem. Customer support is still dealing with quarantine backlog and Roco backlog. They're getting to a more manageable state now though. They said for drop hackers, players can submit a ticket, one ticket, with any evidence they have. If it's extreme, then they can let a community member know. By the way, they stressed only let know and not pester. There is a difference between the two. They can't always act immediately on these things. But yeah, that's it for all the topics. Like always, if you guys have any feedback, feel free to leave it in the comments below. And that's pretty much it, guys. I want to thank you all for watching. I very much appreciate it, and I'm gonna see you guys later. Bye!